Welcome to the MMIA podcast. My name's Joanne Avison, and I'm delighted to be with my very dear friend and colleague, Paul.
Well, hello there. And as you can see, a very bloody Merry Christmas to everybody.
I think it's going to be New Year by the time this is released.
Well, I hope everybody had a great festive season whenever they see this. It's a late present for everybody.
That's brilliant. Late present for everybody, and you match your Christmas tree in that jumper. If anybody's listening on the podcast, Paul's wearing something covered in Christmas baubles, stars, and flying Santas, or are they skating?
I don't know. I think he's a bit weird, this Santa. But he's very jolly.
I'm very boring in my shades of grey. Anyway, neither here nor there. Welcoming the new year in, and excitedly, because with it comes a new book.
Indeed.
It's the book that's behind the course, that's behind a really fabulous lot of difference it's making in the world. I'm quite stunned at the feedback.
Well, here's the thing. I want to ask this question honestly. I deeply respect and acknowledge you've forgotten more than most people will ever learn. But in a time when people have very short attention spans, what do you love about writing so much?
Wow. Well, you and I share an archetype, which is the storyteller. And I think one of the things for me, Paul, is that we're entering an age where I think Jaap van der Waal said science is the new church. But I don't think we necessarily realize what science means. We think that because there's a piece of research that claims X, Y, and Z, which depends completely on the question that was asked in the first place, you can make something right because there's research behind it. And that research might not be valid research. It may not be gold standard peer-reviewed research. You're always going to have the peer review is going to be biased. So it's culturally biased, whichever way it works. And somehow, while I'm not saying that's not true of storytelling, it is. I mean, politics is a form of storytelling in a way.
Exactly. Life is a series of stories, no?
Life is a series of stories. And so what I wanted to do was write down the stories behind the science and challenge some of the scientific metaphors that we use. And I think this is where story and science and principles and understanding overlap. And for me, writing is a craft. So it's a way of kind of weaving a basket to hold all those ideas so that everybody can get them, so we can hand them around. You will have soon. I can't wait. It's sitting waiting for you when you fly to England. But yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, because that's the other thing. That's why I wanted to bring you in and bring John Sharkey and Karen Kirkness and Wilbur Kelsick and Helen Eady, so that nobody could say it's just me and my idea out there. I mean, they can say that it is me and my idea, but it's our idea. And I wanted it to have contributions from other people. Because it's like, if you think about it, I absolutely love your metaphor. I think it's one of the most powerful we have, that we all need to eat and we all need to move. And if you imagine eating and you've got your classical Mackie D's where wherever you go, whatever country you're in, whatever street you go down, anywhere in the world, a Mackie D is a Mackie D and it's always the same. And I think movement is sometimes taught like that. And everybody's got their movement diet, as it were. And actually, it's very unique to each individual, but we all go through that. Everyone's got to do yoga, or everyone's got to do Pilates, or everyone's got to have a personal trainer, or there's all these ideals. And what I think we're trying to do here is upgrade the understanding for those that are really passionate about
Yes.
making a difference. And let's face it, most of the people you and I meet are passionate.
Yes.
They just want the keys. They just want the ingredients. They just want to know how to distinguish themselves, differentiate themselves from the general cut and paste process of, and that's great. I'm not criticizing it. It's absolutely great. You know, there are times when I want to drive up to a Mackie D's and get one because that I need to eat and I know that that's what I want and I know what it's going to be like and I know it's going to be of a standard. Great. And there's something beautiful, superb, somewhat luxurious, but so rewarding about being able to make a dish that is not just masterful in its ingredients and its flavor profiles and its textures and its quality, but it feeds the person that needs it. You know, less is more. You don't need a huge, great big dish of it. You just need a little bit, and it's delicious and it's rewarding and it's nourishing. And you can like learn how to cook it yourself and then go away and just nurture the level of nurture. And that's what I wanted this book to do. I wanted to give people that ability.
I personally think your writing is just it is like that. It's just the greatest book of recipes and a an auditory version of the ingredients, because I don't think a lot of people hear the ingredients when they do these courses. They just see the finished article. They see the dish in front of them, the movement modality, the movement choice, the movement sequence. But I don't think most people who take part in these courses anymore, at whatever level, from your general mother all the way up to the degree and doctorate, I don't think they invest enough time in truly understanding how exquisite these ingredients are, but how uniquely they're
Mm.
used in the simplest of way. For instance, you're right. I love analyzing cookery because I think it's a really good reflection of our movement choices. We have the, like you say, the general, and we have the Michelin star. But there is nothing better than cooking for yourself. And if you understand your
It's true.
ingredients and you're in your own home, in your own kitchen, with your own utensils, your own time, and you understand the ingredients that you truly like and enjoy, and you know how to blend them and incorporate them, and you've got the time to create them, and just you, what's the word we're looking for? Where you invigorate your senses by the flavors and the smell and the aroma within the kitchen, it
Everyone
tastes much
flourishes, right?
better.
Everyone
Well, it's the same with
flourishes. Yeah,
movement.
yeah.
If you're moving to your
Mm.
specific unique taste buds, to your flavor of your ingredients, and you know how to use them best more than anybody, and then as our job is to guide that experience and recognize where you're overutilizing some of your ingredients, and that creates your strains and your limitations. And there's other ingredients you're not expose yourself to because you're fearful of how they might spoil the party or spoil the movement. But if you just were shown how to incorporate them and introduce them carefully, then your taste buds would be challenged. Like spice, don't do too much spicy because it'll put you right off. Just enough tantalizes the taste buds and go, oh wow, I didn't know I could take that. And it's the same with our movement option. And I think that's what your book is representing. It's a reintroduction of ingredients that we know exist, but I don't think they've been utilized in the most favorable or effective way by the vast majority of our industry.
Oh, that's so true. And there's a couple of things we have to say here. And one of them is that the movements in this book, the movements in this book, a lot of them you worked on, you created, you've years and years and years. And it's not a coincidence that we call you the Gordon Ramsay of the movement world because you are so clear, you are so straight, and you are so experienced. It's actually been heaven to work with you. And I remember that having written the majority of the book out of a course I did, I don't know what, 2, 3 years ago now during lockdown, I remember phoning you and saying, Paul, help. I don't want this to be
Mm.
yoga biased. Because you and I both came together through working on cadaveric um, specimens and donations in the anatomy lab. And we both came to the same conclusions and we were both reiterating the same like awarenesses, but you were translating it into the movement of the Pilates world, and I was translating it into the movement of the yoga world. And within themselves, they're all very different and
Yeah, that's right.
multicultural. But in order to be inclusive and appreciate the diversity within those worlds, what we wanted to do was find something that was equally empowering, no matter what your favored modality, no matter what type or tempo the person you're working with or temperament they have. And I just remember phoning you and saying, Paul, can we set up a Zoom call and go through, because I've got these movements. I'd recorded a whole load of them, but they're very yoga oriented, and I really don't want that. I want to demonstrate that you haven't got to be a certain type of chef to cook these ingredients. You don't have to be a
Yes.
specialist in patisserie or a specialist in whatever meat
Man,
cooking or vegetable cooking, whatever it is. You don't need that. I want people to have this very overall empowerment. And when you watch Gordon Ramsay doing his MasterChef programs, he's only got to look at something and say, that needs 2 more
that's
minutes in
right.
the oven. Or, no, you put too much butter on that at the beginning. No, you didn't let that stand. If that had been standing for another 3 minutes, and you're like, how in God's name does he know that? But he knows that like you know that. And I remember we were due to have a Zoom call, and there was a knock at my door, and it was you flown in from Dubai with a suitcase saying, well, where's my cup of tea? And I was like, are you serious? And what I want to thank you for is, like, on my knees, thank you. Like thank you. Is not just your faith in me and your verbal support, but you physically, I'll never forget, you stood on that doorstep and you said, we go global or we go home.
What have you
And a year
yeah.
later, we've got MMIA specialists in all the continents, haven't we?
Honestly, it's been an absolute treat and a privilege, but because I'm a man of my word, and when we had the conversations
Yep.
over those cadavers, and we were a mutual blend of frustration and excitement, like frustrated that we had this unique opportunity to find out the most incredible information from the history of these people who were gifting their bodies so we could learn the effects of movement, and yet the excitement of going sharing it amongst our communities, but also the frustration that it would be met against an obstacle of educational bias and trying to change people's minds collectively. It's been, I personally, as hard as it can be, it's what drives me. It's what makes me so passionate. So to feel that symbiotic approach from you and John and other people who have been my mentors, and have this opportunity to not only have it put in a book and be invited to write a chapter, which I'm so grateful for, that it now one of my opinions is in print, but to get the opportunity to share my explanation of the research and the knowledge that you guys share so willingly, but I have to translate it in a way that makes sense to my general audience. And I've been doing that for a while now
Mm.
without dumbing it down, but highlighting the essential nature of it and seeing it transform people's lives in their movement options. Yeah,
But that's the point. That's the point. It's an empowering thing, because this is the key. This is where I find myself, I don't know if you agree with this, but I find myself trying to explain this to people. And they say to me, well, what am I going to get out of the program? Or what am I going to get out of the book? Now, the book is
of
much more
course.
theory based. The book tells the story, which is what you asked me at the beginning. I long to tell the story of how we've been under the spell of a metaphor that the human body can be argued and discussed and understood and qualitatively
Yes.
valued biomechanically as a mechanical metaphor. And it's not
No.
mechanical. I mean, this is not rocket science, love. It's not mechanical. You watch a rat or a rabbit and an elephant or an emu, any moving and living thing, a
That's
plant,
right.
for goodness sake. There's nothing mechanical about it. And we are part of that nature. And I talk about the definition of nature,
Yeah.
and I talk about the definitions that we've struggled with. And rather than really get in there and go deep with them, we've gone, oh, that's useful. Let's do this. I'm not bitching about the founding
Not at
fathers,
all.
by the way. It's very forgiving and compassionate. It's very loving, because here's
Mm.
the thing. Our founding fathers, the philosophers of the Renaissance, saw the industrial revolution that was
Mm.
coming down the track in the same way, with the same awe as we are seeing technology today. I have a friend who drives a car that takes him to a restaurant. He can sit down at the table, send the car to park itself, and call the car to come and get him afterwards. Literally. That's not a dream of tomorrow. That's not a section out of a movie. It's real. It's happening now. This is it. In that moment, we're looking at technology like it's the most incredible thing. Our great great grandchildren are going to look back on it the same way as we are now looking back on the Industrial Revolution. And our founding fathers used the Industrial Revolution as a metaphor for the highest level of expression of human
Yes.
brilliance. And we are now saying, no, this fascial matrix is a liquid crystal matrix. You have something called haptic perception, which is basically how the liquid crystal screen on your mobile phone works. And we are far more powerful than we think. And we are putting that technology to task in the human body. And I have to say, you've done it absolutely brilliantly. It's already there. This is the thing, it's already there. It's not like it's present as missing. It's not like we're adding something that's not there. And how many times amongst our global audience of teachers giving us feedback have we heard, oh my God, I can't believe it. I included a little bit of MMIA in the middle of the class and we did a sequence before and then a sequence after. And everybody went home going, oh my God, that was brilliant. And they've all got more one-to-one clients. They've all got bigger classes. They're all raising their game because we've given them the keys to repeat
Because
this
we've
magic.
taken away the blurred glasses they've been wearing about what they should
Yeah.
see or what they're expected to see or expected to feel, and allow them to go, "Don't over tinker with it. Just alter it slightly. Just invest time in refining movement." What's my
But it's a new logic, Paul. You give people a
Yeah,
new logic. And because you've spent so many years, I mean, God knows how many countries you've
lot.
taught in, from Jakarta to I don't know, Jordan and all over the UK and all over Europe, everywhere. I mean, I've been all over the world, but I haven't done the depth and breadth that you've done in working with different modalities in different countries. And we've never found anyone it doesn't work for, have
And
we?
that's the whole point. Because humans, even though when we have such a variety of the same species, we are all made of the same ingredients. And that's what's universally the same about our uniqueness of each of us. We're still made of the same ingredients. So they respond the same way. People smile the same way. People grimace the same way. The frown is exactly the same of confusion. The excitement and
Yeah.
joy of, oh my God, this is fabulous, is the same around the world. It's all the same. Yeah, everybody communicates the same. It just sounds different, but it looks the same. And that's one of my pet peeves when people say ugly movement is okay. No, it's not. Ugly movement is really ugly. And your body will reflect ugly movement. And you go, and you just need them to go, hold on a second there. What are you asking your body to do? And how does it feel as it does it? Because if it feels really awkward and ugly and a little bit awkward, then we can just change it slightly so it's more efficient. It serves you better.
Doesn't have to
You
be
can no, it
painful.
shouldn't have to be torture to change things, but it requires patience and it requires a little bit of attention to detail, which is you're not trying to make it perfect, but movement should be good because we can do good movement we can do it for infinitely. That's the thing. Forever.
When you watch MasterChef and you get top
Yep.
chefs analyzing the cooking and you start doing like professional MasterChef. We just had a
Yes.
series of it in the UK. Bloody love that program. I don't know why I'm captivated. You can't taste anything. You can't smell anything. You're watching other people do it. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like
but visually, it
loony.
makes you just
But
salivate. You go,
you just, but you're
yes.
participating in their excitement and the detail of
Yep.
their comments, the texture of a sauce, the
Yes.
shine on a sauce, the quality of that fish is perfectly cooked, for example. And you're like, what makes that perfectly cooked? Or you see them doing the
Yeah.
skills tests. Oh my God. And I'm like, that's exactly what we're doing with movement. We're saying that should rest for 2 more minutes. They'll literally say, if this had cooked for 3 more minutes and you'd rested that meat for 2 more minutes, and you're like, how do you know that? But what you know is that would
Yeah.
have made the difference between perfection, where nobody's thinking or feeling anything. They're just going, oh, delicious. And that's what we're giving people with movement. And I've seen it time and time again. And even my enthusiasm, I'm not an unskilled movement teacher by any means, but you come along and you go, well, hang on a second, Joe. What about you don't need a full circle? Like we did this yesterday in our live coaching call, and you said try a horseshoe shape. And I'm thinking, what's he mean a horseshoe shape? So just up around the top, down the outside. Yeah, it's enough. What do you mean? And you go back and you have this it is an exquisite ability to enable. And more than that, I have to say to you, You have the ability to empower others to enable. That is a skill, and I
Do you know
love you
this
for
why
it.
that skill comes about? Through making 1,000,000,000 mistakes. Of not being frightened to ask why, not being frightened to criticize.
Mm,
This world today, God bless it, is so delicate and vulnerable about being critiqued. But as long as the critique is constructive, I think it should be welcomed and encouraged. Like on
mm,
MasterChef, make no mistake about it. If any of those dishes are not up to par, everybody in the room knows about it because the head chef, the
mm,
judge judging it and giving their critique about it, says why it's not up to
mm.
par. And if they'd done this, that, or the other, it could have elevated and it could have been an outstanding dish. And the same with movement. And where I get brave, whether it's brave or stupid, I don't know. But I really enjoy challenging myself of how I've interpreted something and how I share that with somebody. And it's really difficult to get it right with every personality type out there. But a lot of people really
Oh,
respect that you've gone, no, that's not good. No, that's not really right. That is not helping you. Just alter this, that, or the other. And then they recognize immediately, oh my God, he's paid attention to me. Oh my God, look how I'm now more in charge of what's about to happen. And I control it.
well, you're giving the power
Correct.
back to them. That's the
Correct.
point, and you're not actually making them wrong. You're making them
That's the
capable.
word. My job is to make people capable of using themselves, their form and their functionality as often as they choose.
Exactly.
Whereas a lot of people get upset about you
Exactly.
criticizing because they think you're just being critical for critical sake. And that's not true. That I would never waste my time to just abuse somebody because they're moving ugly. I want to make them move beautifully so that their movement is that
Knowing
they
they
can.
can.
That they because everybody can. Well, the phrase I don't like is when they say I can't. I go, you need to finish that sentence off. You can't yet. You've just not been guided to experience one win.
Mm,
You experience one win, you
mm.
know that you're capable of winning all the time. That's all it is. Small
I love
increments
it.
of successes make you really powerful. And I can't tell you how many times from listening and reading your work and others like you, how I've translated it into practical applications immediately, which is why the work is so powerful because it really does work once you understand it in a way that you can then share it. So again, I just thank you for the endless hours you ply into the computer to produce this work of art. Your book is like a culinary masterpiece, and it just needs to be celebrated as one.
Oh, bless your heart. Well, thank you, but I have to say, it's a huge integrated result of many, 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 many years of working with all
Mhm.
sorts of people. I mean, at one time I had my own yoga teacher training school, and I worked with Alex Lorch and my dear friend Linda Duntal, and I learned
Mhm.
so much from both of them and my dear, dear friend Philippa King, who is an educator, and she taught me how to rephrase things so they had an educational outcome for people that was so much more
Mhm.
accessible and wasn't just lost to my storytelling because well, all of us, we're quite capable of going
Don't worry.
down rabbit holes. And back from there, and the people I've met. I mean, both of us working with John Sharkey, and I spent all those years as a teacher with Tom Myers. It was difficult. It was very difficult, but it was so rewarding. And I learned a lot about what not to do, but I also learned a great deal about what to do. And it gave me my
Yes.
hands-on skills, which I think you and I share our work in that. And both again working with the National Training Centre in Ireland with John. We
Yep.
love you and everything that he's taught us both. And I get to work alongside him and on faculty there now. It's just so exciting. And people like Professor Darrell Evans, who was so patient with me with embryology. And when he became a client, I was completely terrified. I'll never forget. I'm like, what have I got? What am I doing with an anatomy professor? Oh my God, I've only got to say the wrong muscle name and I'm out. And
You
he
did a
did
great
a
podcast with
podcast.
him, didn't you?
I did a podcast with him recently, and he actually let me share about that experience. And God bless him, he's so lovely, and he's doing our program and loving. He's loving it. I mean, we get a report every month, and he's just loving it. Now, he never wants to become a teacher, but what he's finding is the difference that it makes in his life is just that kind of
Yep.
accolade. And we get to work with Carol Davis and I said Jaap van der Waal, and we've had Jean-Claude Gamberto and Neil Thies. So God bless you, Neil.
What
Hi
a
from
gentleman, huh?
wherever you are. I know, and his complexity theory. I quote him quite a lot in the book. I have to say. I mean, I could easily have just quoted whole chapters,
Mhm.
but I kept it
Mhm.
tame. But it's all about that magical weave that empowers others with the missing links. Because I think the metaphors that we have, there's fascia's becoming
Yes.
fashionable and it's becoming misunderstood. And we really want people to understand and distinguish between the kind of the hopeful results. I mean, I've been in ChatGPT many times using
Mm.
questions about fascia and seeing what the feedback is. And had a fabulous example last week of somebody that wrote, "Oh, actually, the tensegrity principles that you talk about of push and pull and tension and compression don't apply to biological forms. Look, here's what AI says," and sent me this whole piece. And I was like, "Well, that's wrong. I just know that's wrong. I know that's wrong from experience. I know that's wrong from all the 20 years of research that I've been to. I mean, give me a break. That's wrong." So I wrote a different question about the same
Mm.
thing, but I knew who to drop in there as researchers with peer reviewed gold standard research that's older than me, and got complete opposite answer. So this takes us back to what we said at the beginning, that the science is as good as the question that the
Yes.
researcher asks. And trust me, if the researcher wants to prove something, they will bend the interpretation of those results, and you won't know the parameters that they began from. And this is why I try to weave it in the book as a story. It's the history, the mystery, the magic, the 5 R's, of which you've written one, and then the actual practice. And I just picked out a few of the
Yes.
practices
Like a sample,
that
aren't they?
you it's yeah, just a little sample, a taster, so people can actually try it for themselves and use themselves as a guinea pig. And I think this is what I wanted to get to. The key we're trying to find here is that it's not generic. It's not the same for everybody. It's same, but different for everybody. In other words, these principles will actually unlock your ability to find out what's delicious to you. I'm not asking you to like the same flavors as me. I mean, I was a chocolatier in my first life as a professional. And I remember Leonid Blyum saying to me once, "That's why you understand fascia." And I said, what are you talking about? I'm like, "What's chocolate
Mm.
got to do with it?" And he said, "Everything." And I went, "What?" And I mean, he's a master biomechanical specialist. The work
Yeah.
that man
He's a
does with
mathematician,
children,
isn't he? That's a
so
genius.
he's a mathematician. He understands movement like no one I've ever met, and the difference it makes. And he's incredible, the work he does with ABR. Unbelievable. And he said to me, "You've been up to your elbows in a liquid crystal matrix every day of your life for 20 years." And I went, "Yeah." And he said, "You know how it behaves. You know how it's variable. You know how it has to move. You know how it has to be heated and melted at different temperatures. You know the emergent properties that come together if you get what right?" And I said, "Everything." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you have to get the timing right. You have to get the type right for the temperament of that particular chocolate. It's got to be tempered differently depending on what ingredients it has within its matrix. And you have to get it to crystallize in a certain way at a certain time under certain circumstances. If you get one ingredient wrong, you'll get a different outcome." And it's that. And he just looked at me and he went, "Hello?" I said, "What?" He said, "Welcome to the world of the human
Well, isn't there
body."
such similarities? They're just
It's
similarities
incredible.
about personality, about characteristics, about behaviors, about influences from
Exactly.
everything from temperature to interaction to surface, time.
Timing,
I mean, there are
texture.
just such parallels, and that's what that phrase I heard
Mm.
this phrase a long time ago, that we mustn't let science dictate to us what we do. Science is there to influence what we understand, what we see, and
And
in
inform us, but we've got to dance with the result.
that's
You've
right.
still got to, I mean, if you try and teach somebody to ride a horse technically versus getting them to sit on the animal bareback and just move with the animal and realize that those two spines are
That's
working
right.
as one, you become a two-headed creature with a tail and six legs, and four of them are on the ground and two of them are not. Magic
Exactly.
happens. Absolute magic happens, and you can upgrade that to all sorts
Correct.
of things. But there's a wild ingredient. There's a wild ingredient, and when you get a chef who can come along and go, "Just add a tiny bit of
Mm.
lemon juice to that," and you go, "What do you mean? Just trust me. Add just a teaspoon of lemon juice." And you get a fresh lemon and you cut it and you put that teaspoon of lemon juice in and you just drop it in and you go, "How in heaven's name did they know that?" I remember when I was in the chocolate factory one day, and our My son's father was he's just a master chocolatier. He's just unbelievable, and his flavor palette is
Mm.
beyond belief. It's insane. And he said, I want a strawberry flavor that tastes like the smell of picking a fresh
Wow.
strawberry, and you pull the stalk out, and there's that green smell. And
Straight from
you
the
know
garden.
exactly what
Yeah,
I'm
straight
talking
from the
about.
garden. Yeah.
Who created it for you? You just pull that stalk out, and there's that, oh, really fresh hand-picked garden strawberries we're talking with that where you bite into them and that
Wow, that's very
wild
specific,
sweetness
no?
is so a thing. And he created it. He went to a flavor farm and he created that flavor. He knew exactly how to make people feel as if they were drinking a champagne truffle. There's no champagne anywhere near it. You're joking. That just tastes like vinegar when you put it into a mix. And it's like, wow, how do you do that? And I have to say, Paul, you do that with movement. I've seen
I
you
try
do
my
it.
best because I want the best for everybody, and my only opportunity to help them is when they're right in front of me because I don't live with them.
Mm.
As much as I like to live with some of my clients because they're good fun, but I want them to go home knowing that they're in charge of the outcome of their movement.
I love that. And on that note, I wish you a fabulous Christmas.
Likewise, straight back at you, Joanne, and to everybody else out there, have a really safe new year. We'll see you bursting with anticipation and passion in 2025 as we do myofascial magic in action around the globe. Feel free to come and join us. If you can't join us directly, subscribe and press like on this.
Oh, yeah, because then you'll hear about lots of free gifts and little bits.
Well, bye, guys.
Big love. Bye.